Previously in episode 21. Welcome back. I'm Gorham Works. This is my 1969 C10 with a 540 in it. We're going to rejet this because last episode, Technician Troy and I were out driving it around and we were running an AFR of about 11 to 1, and that's just too rich. We need to get this more closer, and I'll put my target AFRs up here so you guys can see. But get that rejetted, get it back together, then we take it out and test drive it. I'd love to get Nick the van man to drive it because he's a great carburetor guy, and I'd love to get his input on how it goes. The fuel system on this is actually really simple. It's a deadhead fuel system. The carburetor, literally, to get it off the truck, I undo the fuel line, make sure I don't spill fuel everywhere, unhook the throttle linkage, and then I take the 4 bolts that hold it to the intake off, and then I pull a PCV valve out of the top of the valve cover, and then I can carry the entire assembly over to the workbench and work on it without worrying about dropping something down into the motor. It's really convenient. Got the carburetor off the truck. Let me show you this. It's not as complicated as it looks, I promise. So, this is my carburetor. This is your throttle linkage. This opens and closes everything. What this does down here though, so the fuel comes up from the pump, comes in here. This is a filter, Aeromotive, great filter. Makes a 90, comes up into a regulator. We're using a regulator because the pump that I have on the truck is capable of making more than 6 PSI of fuel pressure. And for carburetors, you need it about, 5.5, 6 PSI. This regulates that and keeps that even so we don't overpower the needle and seats, which is the valve that opens and closes and lets the amount of fuel inside the carb that we need. That controls how much fuel is going in. Inside of each one of these, there is a set of jets and a power valve. There's one in the front, there's one in the back. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take float bowls off, and then we're gonna change the 2 jets in the front and the back. That way, we're giving the engine the right amount of power to maintain our air-fuel ratio, so that way our base tune is pretty great. With the float bowl out of the way, I can make my jet changes. Tech tip, use the right tool. This is a jet changing tool. It looks like a little special screwdriver. It's made to work with these jets. Brass is soft. Using a steel screwdriver, you can damage them. You don't want to do that, so using the right tool prevents that. Anyway, back to work. Once I've made the jet change in the front, I can reassemble the float bowl, flip the carburetor around, and begin work on the secondaries. Let me show you some hot roddy stuff from the rear float bowls. See these right here that stick the jets way out into the float? They're called jet extensions, so when the fuel sloshes to the back under hard acceleration, it keeps the jets in the fuel so they can pull fuel down into the carburetor without creating a lean spot. And if you're getting into your secondaries, you need this to actually work, or you can melt stuff or break stuff. Important little things that save motors. Anyway, back to work. To bring up my AFR ratio from 11 to 1 to a 13 to 1, I'm going to take 2 jets out of the front and 2 jets out of the back. So I'm going to go to a smaller diameter hole in the jets, and that should put me more where I needed to be. Currently, I'm running a 77 in the main and a 78 in the secondary. I'm going to go down to a 75 in the main and a 76 in the secondary and see what it does from there. Got our fuel lines all hooked back up, our vacuum line going to the distributor, throttle linkage, PCV. I think it's good to start up, make sure it's not leaking, and see what happens. So that's what I'm going to do next. Now let's see if it lights off. Here we go. Maybe. I love that noise. Now I'm gonna go make sure there's no leaks. No crazy leaks. It's all back together. I don't know if you can tell. It's pretty cold out here, so I'm gonna wrap it up for the day. I'm not gonna be out driving around today, but we'll take it out probably tomorrow and make sure that it works, and we'll probably make some adjustments at idle and see how it does. But I'm pretty happy with that. No leaks around the carb. Let's go. Good morning, everybody. It is the next day. I got up early, went out and washed the truck. Idles down without dying. Very good signs. All the changes we're making appear to be positive. Haven't even left the neighborhood. I'm really excited at this point. Got out of the neighborhood, got it warmed up. I'm checking that AFR gauge. I'm really aiming for that, 12.9 to 1 to 13 to 1, 14 to 1, like under load, trying to keep it fairly happy and fat when it's under load, but most of the time if it's cruising, aiming for that 14 to 1 and even a little bit higher under cruise. Right here I can see like it is happily upper 12s with just a tiny bit of load on it. It drops down, but the engine's barely working at this speed. Just cruising. It helps. As you can tell, it's definitely peppier. I'm just going to spend some time continuing to watch the gauge, drive it around, evaluate what my changes did, and report it pretty positive. Right now I'm going to start debating, let's do some more work on the secondaries. It might need a tiny little bit more fuel on the secondaries, and maybe the vacuum secondary spring needs to get changed. I'm going to evaluate that after a little bit more time so I can kind of see its behavior and make an assessment with a little bit more data. Good time to ask you guys, what's the hardest vehicle you guys have had to tune? This one's been pretty swell. Let me know down in the comments. It's February 2024. Haven't been making a lot of videos lately. Had some family health issues come up and that takes priority over this stuff. But that's okay. Give me a few more weeks and we'll be back at it. We've got some things coming up for 2024. We're going to put some shelves in, or I don't know what you want to call them. My brother calls them tool shelves to keep things from falling off the grill and going down between the radiator support and the ground. I'm pretty excited about that. We're going to get those installed. Also have a carb cheater ready to go on this thing. I'm very excited about that because the tune in the carb, it's getting really close. And for those daily environmental changes, that carb cheater should do it for me, and this thing should run really smooth and be really dialed with that. What else do we got coming? Oh, right now, because I don't want to rip out the factory gauge cluster and put in basically a $1,200 or $1,500 gauge cluster, because these are pretty. I'd like to retain them. We're going to get this thing where it talks to the satellites. And I'll show you how we go from an analog to a digital satellite signal, and then we'll be able to maintain our factory gauges. Pretty exciting. I'm looking forward to that because it'll be accurate regardless of the transmission combination in this thing. Gave it a nice bath. I'm gonna go put some more miles on it because I can today, and it's been kind of rare lately. So I hope you guys are safe, and we will see you guys here in a few weeks. Thank y'all. I'm out.